Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Large areas of Ukraine are suffering blackouts after Russian missiles targeted energy infrastructure. 15 blasts were reported in the second largest city, Kharkiv. That's according to the mayor, while more than 53,000 households in Odessa were without power. Ukraine's energy minister accused Russia of trying to provoke a large-scale failure of the country's energy system. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia had launched more than 90 missiles and sent 60 explosive drones into Ukraine during the wave of overnight attacks. Antony Blinken is in Israel calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza tied to the release of hostages held by Hamas. It is the first time the United States has supported calls for an immediate ceasefire in the region, having previously blocked such demands at the UN. Blinken is meeting the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the US grows more critical of Israel's military campaign. The US Secretary of State has been in the Middle East to discuss a post-war plan to govern and secure Gaza. A UN-backed food security assessment this week said 1.1 million people in Gaza were struggling with catastrophic hunger and starvation.
The need for an immediate, sustained ceasefire with the release of hostages. That would create space to surge more humanitarian assistance to relieve the suffering of many people and to build something more enduring. We've been working, as you know, with Egypt, with Qatar, and with Israel to put a strong proposal on the table. Hamas responded to that. The negotiators continue to work. The gaps are narrowing, and we're continuing to push for an agreement in Doha. There's still difficult work to get there, but I continue to believe it's possible. Israel needs to do more. Tomorrow, I'll be talking to our partners about how to coordinate our efforts. We all share concerns. There are more than 1 million people in Rafah, many of whom were displaced from other parts of Gaza. A major ground operation there would mean more civilian deaths. It would worsen the humanitarian crisis. There is a better way to deal with the threat, the ongoing threat posed by Hamas.
Indonesian rescuers have found 69 Rohingya people sunburnt and dehydrated, floating on a rusty hull off the coast of Aceh. The country's search and rescue agency says 9 children, 18 women and 42 men were saved. Around 80 others are believed to have been swept away, feared dead. One survivor said that some in the party had been at sea for a month in a wooden boat. Idaho police have captured 2 white supremacist gang members who have been linked to 2 homicides since a prison break. Fugitive inmate Skylar Mead and alleged accomplice Nicholas Umfenor were caught in the city of Twin Falls. 3 officers were injured when Umfenor allegedly ambushed guards while they took Mead back to prison from a hospital. Police say both men are members of a prison gang, the Aryan Knights. They say it is unclear whether the escape was a gang-sanctioned event. The UN has adopted the first global resolution on artificial intelligence proposed by the US and co-sponsored by 122 nations, as it seeks to protect personal data, monitor AI for risks, and safeguard human rights. The non-binding resolution, proposed by the United States and co-sponsored by China and over 120 other nations, also advocates the strengthening of privacy policies. It is the latest in a series of initiatives by governments around the world to shape AI's development.
Today, all 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly have spoken in one voice and together chosen to govern artificial intelligence rather than let it govern us.
And the US Department of Justice and 15 states has sued Apple as the government cracks down on big tech.
Apple has employed a strategy that relies on exclusionary, anti-competitive conduct.
They allege the iPhone maker monopolized the smartphone market, hurt smaller rivals, and drove up prices. The Justice Department said that Apple charges as much as $1,599 for an iPhone and makes larger profit than any others in the industry. Officials also said Apple charges various business partners behind the scenes in ways that ultimately raises prices for consumers and drives up Apple's profit. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.